All right. So we are, well, last week we were talking about mind and the gunas and finding out that there's really no difference between those. And the last thing that the Maharaj said last week, he said in both, of course, meaning matter and mind, our matter is in the mind, so they can't really be separated. In both, because the two are not separate, it is only the absolute that is beyond the gunas. In fact, these are but points of view, ways of looking. They exist only in the mind. Beyond mind, all distinctions cease. Right? So beyond the mind, all distinctions cease. See, this is the job of ego. Ego is what causes us to separate everything. And that places us in a relative world because to separate things, we have to put them into relationship with each other because they all seem to exist. And and so we spend all of our time listening to that narrative in the mind. So our questioner starts off today. He says, "Is the universe a product of the senses?" Now, how could the universe be a product of the senses? That's interesting. Hmm. Hmm. Normally, I just let it fly, but that doesn't even, I don't even know how he would arrive at that. Okay, let's see. Just as you create your world, Maharaj says, on waking up, so the universe unrolled. The mind, with its five organs of perception, five organs of action, and five vehicles of consciousness, appears as memory, thought, reason, and selfhood. All right, so the mind with its five organs of perception, those are your senses, the five organs of action, okay, the five vehicles of consciousness appear as memory. So you remember the things you hear, taste, touch, or smell. We call those arrangements experiences. So they appear as memory. Thought, it excites your thought. You know, these having these separations are unnatural to your mind. The mind is unity, one without a second. And the thought of me and mine is what causes experience, right? And causes us to have senses. And these senses create our memories, which we use to create our ego, right? So it's all in there. The five vehicles of consciousness appear as memory, thought, reason, right? Reasoning is a fallacy, really. Uh, in some ways, you have to, for reason to be any good at all, you have to have an absolute, really, to start with. Because otherwise, reasoning also is relative and is subject to relativity.
Maharaj, what's discernment?
Discernment is what is discernment? Discernment is knowing what is real and separating it from the unreal. I think that's how I would call discernment. It's the action of the buddhi, going in and seeing what is narrative and what is real, knowing the self. So reason and then selfhood. The I am, we add all of these thoughts and memories and experiences, we all add them as uh, characteristics of ourself, right? Attributes. That's what I was looking for. They're attributes. We collect them and we build our ego out of them. So the questioner says, well, the scientists have made much progress. We know the body and the mind much better than our ancestors. Would you all agree with that? Do you think we know the mind and body more than the ancestors did? Those ancestors wrote the Vedas, man. They wrote the Upanishads. Seems like they had a pretty good grasp of mind and body. I don't think this is true, but anyway, that's his idea. The sciences have made much progress. We know the body and the mind much better than our ancestors. Your traditional way, describing and analyzing mind and matter, is no longer valid. What's he doing there? Why? What is he doing in front of this enlightened soul if it has no validity? Maharaj, but where are your scientists with their sciences? Are they not again images in your own mind? Hmm. Questioner. Well, here lies the basic difference. To me, they are not my own projections. They were before I was born and shall be when I am dead. Maharaj. Well, of course. Once you accept time and space as real, you will consider yourself minute and short-lived. But are they real? Do they depend on you or you on them? As body, you are in space. As mind, you are in time. But are you mere body with a mind in it? Have you ever investigated? Questioner. I had neither the motive nor the method. What an interesting thing to say. This must be a different questioner than the one we've had earlier, because this one doesn't seem to have thought about these things at all. Well, I have neither the motive nor the method, Maharaj. I am suggesting both, but the actual work of insight and detachment, viveka, vairagya, is yours. And see, this to me is one of the most important points if in my life lately, and just in my attitude, because I've been in the monastery, I guess 26 years, and I've been lecturing for 10 of them. And I'm really starting to see that really you get enough lectures in a single year for the rest of your life. Probably even a single, oh, I don't know, it depends on where you go, but I would say 6 months. After 6 months, you've learned all the Vedanta you need to know. And it's not these classes and whatnot are good for keeping the mind in a healthy space and for reminding us about these truths. But really, the movement of your spiritual life depends entirely on your practice, right? On where you are in your practice. And when I say where you are, I mean how convinced are you that life is practice? How aware are you that every moment that you're alive is practice? Because I think that's this. I don't know what to say. What to say? Because I don't. It's not a thing. It's not a judgment at all. But I heavily encourage people and myself. My goodness gracious, and myself. More practice. More practice. More practice. More practice. More practice. The knowledge that you already have will bloom in your mind. What you already know can take you to enlightenment, right? It's just a matter of sitting in the presence, sitting in the awareness of God, the awareness of being, your I am, sitting in that place and really letting things fall, let things become as they are with observing, not observing and thinking, just observing. It's amazing how much you learn without thinking. It's amazing how much you become aware of in silence, right? And just being. I've really enjoyed the change in my practice this week. I only started it about a week or two ago, where it's Vedanta light. I have to giggle every morning when I sit down to do it because because it's so casual. I just sit down, I have my cup of coffee, and I just read, I don't know, 3 or 4 Hafiz poems and just ruminate, just sit with them, stew in them with mother, and just have a little like a conversation with your teacher sort of thing. Just really more to enjoy the presence. I'm not trying to develop anything. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm just trying to sit with mother like I sit with a friend, to sit there and just commune. And oh man, has it been just so fun and so delightful and very, very insightful. Today, there's a couple of times, today and yesterday, where Mother just dropped us into a profound silence for a few moments as we sat there together. And in that place, I was convinced. I was convinced that all of this was unreal. For a moment, I could see, I could know. I had a knowing. Yes, there will never be more than there is right now. Being dead will be the same as being right now. It's like there is no difference. Everything that I look at that's different is just colors on a sheet of paper. There's nothing more than that. And all experience is just sensation, right? All experience is just uh, different arrangements of the five, right? Games of the five senses. Everything. It's just going to be a different arrangement of five, right? And you just think about that after a while. You're like, well, how many arrangements do I need? Why am I tantalized with the idea of more arrangements of the five? I know essentially what they are. I know the world of sense. There's only five things to know in that world, and the rest is just bouquets, arrangements. And how many arrangements of flowers do you have to see before you're like, ah, it's an arrangement of flowers? And just leave it to that, right? And so this is what he's telling him here, the actual work of insight and detachment. That's ours. That's what we've got to do. And so we should actively be engaged in that. And ideally all the time. You don't neglect your work. You don't neglect the other things that you have to do. They're part of it. That's why Mother has you doing them, right? Your day is not a distraction unless you forget that Mother has given it to you for the reason of your enlightenment, right? Your day today is there for your enlightenment, and everything that you're going to do today is to move you closer toward that. If you do it with that awareness, then you're in the fast lane. Then you start seeing rather quickly, rather delightfully. But if we just go on and forget and live another mundane day playing in the arrangements of five, we can get stuck. And as Vedantists, I know we always feel stuck. We always feel like, oh, when am I going to realize God? How come, how come, how come, how come? Right? Well, the how come is you're willing to forget. You're willing to forget. Your forgetfulness doesn't alarm you, right? And so our practice is really only for that. We really can't do anything. We're not doers, right? And our practice is really just a moment of awareness, a moment of placing our attention on the divine. And for a bhakti, that means your beloved. And for a jnani, that means your I am, your isness, right? And both of them, great sources of bliss, great sources of divine encouragement. And so the work is up to us. Questioner, well, the only motive I can perceive is my own causeless and timeless happiness. And what is the method? Right? The only motive I can perceive is my own causeless and timeless happiness. Boy, this guy's. I want to hit him. I'm like, what are you doing? What is this? He calls his own happiness causeless and timeless. That's his motive? A causeless thing is his motive? And timeless thing, what's he? If his happiness was causeless and timeless, there would be no motivation. He would have it. It would be there. It wouldn't make him hungry to move and to change or to get something. What's he asking? And what is the method? Maharaj immediately tells him the truth here. Happiness is incidental. It's not something you can pursue and have. It evaporates. It evaporates quickly, right? And it's generative. It's the result of an action, right? So it's
would that
yeah.
be he wants more desires, right?
Well, he desires are the cause of his happiness, but at the same time, his question doesn't make sense because
And that won't bring him happiness.
right, no, it can't. It will for a moment, but happiness requires maintenance. You have to generate happiness, and then the conditions or the circumstances change, and then your mind's not happy anymore. If you want your favorite dinner, you want your spaghetti, which is not my favorite. Let's get my favorite. My favorite are nachos. Don't get me nachos. But so your favorite dinner is nachos, right? But then if you have an endless supply of nachos in front of you, how long is your happiness going to be there? Right?
But if
That's
he
the problem. Uh-huh.
I was going to say, but I think that maybe this is where we all start from, right? That maybe it's another way of saying that we want no suffering in our lives, right? So it's a very basic way of saying that, okay, I don't want to suffer, and I want this happiness which will not rely on an external or internal cause and will be
Yes.
there forever. So I think I kind of understand because maybe we all start from there.
Yes, we do indeed. But we don't start with the idea that it's causeless and outside of time, causeless and timeless. It's like we
Yeah.
start knowing we just want it to last forever. We want it to become, maybe that's what he means, that he wants
Yeah.
causeless and timeless
Yes,
happiness.
yes, yeah, that's what I think. He just wants happiness which has, which
Uh,
is not dependent on any cause or
right. And this Maharaj's first reply here, happiness is incidental. This is a very
yes,
important thing.
yes, yes.
If you pursue something, you're not going to get it. If you're not going to get what you're actually pursuing, you'll probably get what you think you're pursuing, but you're not going to get that what you're thinking. Like if you say you want money, but money's just pieces of paper. So it's not the money that you want. It's what you associate money with security, right? Oh, then I won't have to worry about where my food and my house is, right? And so then you pursue money, but really what you're pursuing is security.
Right.
And you realize that security can't be bought with money, right? That
Yes,
money is insecure by its nature. It requires a huge uh, system of assumptions on the part of many, 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 many people to be worth anything,
mm,
right?
yes,
To be worth anything. I mean, I remember when they changed from the Deutschmark to the euro, suddenly all your millions of Deutschmarks are worth nothing. They're just trash. And you had to convert
yes,
everything now to euros. And so money, that's a great way to see the nature of money. It's just an idea and it can
yes,
change in a second like that. So understand that it's not don't pursue something outside yourself is what he's saying. Incidental, a fulfilled life doesn't come from pursuing a fulfilled life. A fulfilled life is a byproduct of living knowing who you are, right? Just living while knowing who you are. Fulfillment is a byproduct. Bliss is a byproduct. These things happen, but they don't happen when you pursue them. They only happen when you are being what you are, when you are living according to the dictates of love, of wisdom through your being, right? Happiness is incidental. The true and effective motive is love, right? Love is always an inspiration. So this is why it's so effective. Love is an inspiration. It's not a drive, right? It's not a drive. It's an inspiration. It doesn't have something that it's trying to achieve or get. It's an expression of your divinity. That's what love is, the expression of your divinity. And to put that in other words, it's the expression of oneness. Any expression of oneness is going to be effective. You see people suffer and you seek the best way of helping them. The answer is obvious. First, put yourself beyond the need of help. Right? So, first, understand there's nothing outside of yourself that you need. And this includes God. This includes God, right? God has to move inside at some point. And what you feel, all of the responsibility that you feel toward this God, at some point you just have to realize that's a responsibility to taking care of your own self, right? Your own self is that divinity, and your experience of this moment is the teaching, telling you and letting you know how aware of self are you, of the divinity, how aware of oneness are you, right? So happiness is incidental. The true and effective motive is love. You see people suffer and you seek the best way of helping them. The answer is obvious. First, put yourself beyond the need of help. Be sure your attitude is of pure goodwill. free of expectation of any kind. Right? So it's what Brother Lawrence always used to say, that he had a general fondness, a general fond regard for everything. In his moment of practice while he was cooking and working in the kitchen, he just generated a general fond regard for God, a general fond regard for the moment, which is the same thing, right? So we just have a general fond regard of everything in this moment, and we work as we're inspired to by the love that's native to us. So no thinking necessary, no calculating necessary, no hunger or thirst is necessary. We simply have a general fond regard in the moment, and we act from the nature of pure love that's within us, free of any expectation, right? Because we're working from inspiration and not from hunger. If you have expectation, then you're being driven. You're being driven. You're being worn out. Your motive is hunger and thirst. But when you know the divinity within, when you know your contentment within, when you know your nature within, then it's an inspiration. You act always out of inspiration, and that keeps you free of expectation. That keeps you free of hunger. Those who seek mere happiness may end up in sublime indifference, while love will never rest. Right? So those who seek mere happiness may end up in a sublime indifference, because really, if you want a lasting happiness, you basically have to be indifferent to condition and circumstance. And if you're working for that happiness, then your end game is just an indifference, a sublime indifference. Well, whatever. But if you don't have love, then it's a state of tamas, right? It's a state of tamas. You don't care anymore. And in that state of uncaring, you have found your happiness, right? Your distraction, whatever it is. But love will never rest, right? It won't rest because there's no end to it. It's constantly inspiring. It's constantly taking us to more and more beautiful vistas, one after the other, seeing God more clearly every time. As to method, there is only one. You must come to know yourself, right? You have to come to be at peace with yourself. When you come to peace with yourself, then you can sit in a chair and be content. Nothing is needed, right? And there's no need to move. You can be inspired to move, but there's no need to move. You must come to know yourself, both what you appear to be and what you are. Clarity and charity go together. Each needs and strengthens the other, right? So the charity comes from your nature, and the clarity comes from the absence of ego, right? That's how we sit and see. Clarity is the removal of ego from what you're looking at. So it's not the result of a thought process. Your mind and your arrangement of thoughts are not describing the moment to you. The moment is self-evident to someone in clarity. The moment is self-evident. The mind doesn't need to make a commentary about it. You see it, you know it, and charity will be the result of it, right? Because the self will spill into the moment, as it were, right? Your overflowing sense of love, your overwhelming sense of well-being, that lovely, that general fond regard will express. And it doesn't. I like that phrase so much, that general fond regard, because it's so understated, right? It doesn't bring any picture of having to generate an excitement or a ooh, I love it, I love it, I love everything, I love everything, right? Not a generated lathering like that, but a general fond regard. You're just pleasant, content, and always motivated by love. No excitement, no craziness, no drama, no presentation, just isness, right? Just someone who's a delight to the world. Compassion, the questioner says, compassion implies the existence of an objective world full of avoidable sorrow. Okay. Maharaj, the world is not objective, and the sorrow of it is not avoidable. The world is not objective, right? The world is subjective. Why? Because it's one without a second. If it's one without a second, there can be no object. There's no separateness. So the world is not objective. And existence and sorrow is not avoidable. Right? If the world exists, it's because of the divisions, the distinctions of egoism. If there's egoism, there's constant change and constant insecurity. And in that constant change and that constant insecurity, there's going to be sorrow. It's going to happen. It's not avoidable. So the world is not objective, and sorrow of it is not avoidable. Compassion is but another word for the refusal to suffer for imaginary reasons. Compassion is another word for the refusal to suffer for imaginary reasons. Right? So your compassion is opening yourself to include the other. That's what causes the feeling of love, right? The feeling of oneness. Right? And it's your action of it, because compassion is an action, it's a doership. So there's some ignorance in it, but it's a refusal to suffer for imaginary reasons. Your sense of separate self is the imaginary reasons that cause you to suffer. Compassion is pushing that boundary out to include another, inviting someone else into the boundary of your ego. Come on this side of the wall and I'll take care of you like I take care of myself. That's compassion, right? So that's pushing the boundary of egoism, which is the cause of sorrow. If the reasons are imaginary, the questioner asks, why should the suffering be inevitable? Well, okay. Maharaj, it is always the false that makes you suffer. Right? It's always the unreal. When things turn out to not be real, you suffer. When the love in your relationship with somebody turns out to be unreal, you suffer. When, when this body begins to prove its unreality, right? Then you suffer. All these things. Suffering is clinging to things that change. They'll always let you fall. They're always going to betray you. This world of change is a constant flow of unrepeating change. And there is no security in that. You cannot be secure in a world of unrepeating change. You cannot find an oasis there. You have to withdraw. You have to find that unchanging self within. And from that vantage point, live as the witness. Stand in the unchanging love, the unchanging wisdom, and observe its many changes. From that space of knowing love and wisdom, that's your clarity. Being able to stand in the self, being able to stand unaffected in the self, that's your clarity. And then with that clarity, you observe. And with clarity and observation, God is experienced. Right? The bliss of living, the joy of being. It becomes apparent. Right? And that which you were one time seeking has now appeared as a byproduct of you simply knowing who you are and being true to that in the moment. And all that which you sought now begins to appear as a mere byproduct. It's always the false that makes you suffer, the false desires and fears, the false values and ideas, the false relationships between people. Abandon the false and you are free of pain. Truth makes happy. Truth liberates. All right. What does it mean to liberate? This is a new thought. That's my favorite thought du jour. I was trying to think, well, what is liberation? What is that? And liberation means the fence of the ego is removed so that your divine self of love and wisdom can finally express freely, right? That's liberation. You liberate your Satchitananda. You liberate your love. You liberate your wisdom. You liberate your being, right? You remove the fence that keeps them penned in, which is egoism, your sense of a small self. So liberation is that. That's what it is to be liberated. It's not an ego idea that me and mine is going to somehow be free to wander as it wants to. No, not at all. It's the removal of me and mine, the removal of egoism, that distinctions that make you separate. And the freedom, the liberation belongs to Satchitananda. Finally, it can express equally and freely in all directions. It's no longer being funneled into political and commercial and social purposes with expectations all over it, right? That's liberation. Abandon the faults, right? The ideas of separation, the ideas of distinction, and you are free of pain. Truth makes happy. Truth liberates. Question. The truth is that I am a mind imprisoned in a body, and this is a very unhappy truth. Maharaj, you are neither the body nor in the body. There is no such thing as body. You have grievously misunderstood yourself. To understand rightly, investigate. This is why I love Vedanta. The solution is not a belief. The solution is not a faith. The solution is investigate. Look more closely. Clear your mind more thoroughly. Let this truth be something that you see, that you know. Right? Faith is a tool on the way, but in the end, there's no faith. In the end, there's knowing. You are neither the body nor in the body. There's no such thing as body. You have grievously misunderstood yourself. To understand rightly, investigate. Questioner, but I was born as a body, in a body, and shall die with the body, as a body. Maharaj, this is your misconception. Right? This is your problem. This is what you're not, this is your falseness. Inquire. Go inward. Right? Most of us are always going outward. We're curious about all the moving and changing, the fluttering, the glittering, the noisy. We're always investigating that, right? Inquire, investigate, right? This is why, for myself, this is why I'm always coming up with these silly little experiments, right? Because Vivekananda says if it's real, it must be experienceable. You must see it. You must be able to, if God is there, you must be able to see him, right? If all these things are true, they must be self-evident. And so drag them into your laboratory. Drag them in and put them in your mind and sit there with them. Look at them with the beloved. Put them on the coffee table behind you, between you, and sit there with the divine beloved, having your cup of tea and staring at the thing on the coffee table, saying, what in the world is that? And let Mother tell you. Let Mother bring it out for you. Inquire, investigate, doubt yourself and others, right? Doubt yourself, because yourself is the thinking self. Yourself is the thought of you that exists merely as a thought. It's up here, right? Doubt that self. Doubt the self that does. Doubt the self that does. Right? And doubt that self. Bring it back to the self that's observing and watch. Wait for clarity. Right? Wait for clarity. Inquire, investigate, doubt yourself and others. Why? Because ultimately it's unreal. So don't accept it as real. To find truth, you must not cling to your convictions. Ooh, and this is where it gets tough. This is where it gets tough. This is what I say. That night that I sat on my bed and looked around and realized that at that point, 27 years of investment in my education, investment in my religion, investment in my character, right? 27 years of investment, and I was sitting there unhappy. Do you know how hard that was for me to admit that I had wasted 27 years of my life investing in something that came to nothing? And I sat there and I had to accept it. I was like, I can see if I continue in this way, everything is just going to keep getting bigger, but I'm just going to be the same person in the middle of it, and I'm unhappy, right? And that's when those magic words, I said, Vance, which was my name at the time, I hereby give you my permission to do anything you think you need to do to be happy, right? And that was started the grand investigation. That was the first step into my grand investigation. I sold everything and began wandering the world for a year. Just looking. I still thought it was outside of myself. So I went looking everywhere I could think of outside of myself to find it for a year. And that year taught me that it wasn't outside myself. Right? That magic moment, I was sitting on the island of Rarotonga in the middle of the South Pacific, watching the full moon glinting on the leaves of the palm tree, being amazed at how much like aluminum they looked like in that lighting. Even the way the sound they make when those palm fronds rub together sounded like aluminum rubbing together. I was sitting there thinking about it, right? And I realized the thought passed my mind, oh, I wish I was back in my own bed. Right? For a year, I'd been sleeping in bunks and cots and from one hostel after another, all the different countries. And I found myself sitting there longing for my own bed. And it made such an impression on me. I thought, God, when I'm in my own bed, I'm longing for this hostel. And when I'm in the hostel, I'm longing for my own bed. Clearly, this is not outside of me, right? This island has 10,000 people on it that can never get off this island. Happiness has to be as much on this island as it is anywhere else in the world, assuming that the world is fair, which was a principle I was willing to adopt, to assume that the world was fair somehow. And so I saw that. So inquire, investigate, doubt yourself and others. To find truth, you must not cling to your convictions, right? You must not settle for your assumptions. If you are sure of the immediate, you will never reach the ultimate, right? Because this immediate, if you're sure of it, what are you sure of in it? What about this immediate moment can you count on being there forever, right? If it's external, there's nothing. Your idea that you were born and that you will die is absurd. Both logic and experience contradict it. Questioner. All right, I shall not insist that I am the body. You have a point here. But here and now, as I talk to you, I am in my body, obviously. The body may not be me, but it is mine. This is why dreaming is such a helpful thing, right? Dreaming undoes all of his arguments right here, because in the dream, what he says is obvious is that I'm in my body. Well, in the dream, that's obvious too. I'm in this body and I'm walking through this dream. It's obvious. How obvious? What assumptions are you making that make that obvious? You're assuming that your dream is real and that you're in it. That is the wrong assumption. That is trusting the immediate. What is the ultimate? To remember that I'm in bed and I'm sleeping and that this dream is in me and I am not in this dream, right? So his reasoning is undone by the simple experience of a dream. right? All right, so I won't insist that I'm the body. But the body may not be me, but it is mine. How can it be taken away then? Maharaj, the entire universe contributes incessantly to your existence. Hence, the entire universe is your body. In that sense, I agree. Right? There's an interesting idea. The whole universe is necessary for you to be. Right? So your eating food does not begin with it entering your mouth. It begins with your universal body, growing it, providing it, nurturing it, having billions of conditions that are necessary for it to happen. Right? Look at Mars. That's the thing that baffles me. Every time we get a picture of a planet, there's nothing there but rocks. Right? Think about the effort that it takes for a piece of lettuce to grow. Think about the number of conditions that have to be met for that to happen. The whole universe contributes to your wellness. The entire universe contributes incessantly to your existence. Hence, the entire universe is your body. In that sense, I agree. Questioner. Well, my body influences me deeply. In more than one way, my body is my destiny. My character, my moods, the nature of my reactions, my desires and fears, inborn or acquired, they are all based on the body. A little alcohol, some drug or other, and everything changes. Until the drug wears off, I become another man. Maharaj, all of this happens because you think yourself to be the body. Realize your real self, and even drugs will have no power over you. Right? We see that in Ram Dass, so Ram Dass's teacher, I guess, or I don't remember who it was, one of the Beatles teachers. They gave him LSD, and he took it. He took a huge dose of it. He took all of it at once. And he sat there unaffected and told them, oh, yes, I've seen all of this in my own meditations. I didn't need this drug, right? Because there's always a self. And that was always, well, I guess to talk about things I don't normally talk about. Actually, I do, but that's what gets me in trouble. But that was the thing that really frustrated me back in my days of when I was looking for intoxications to escape my pain, to escape the mundane nature of my living, you know. And the problem with my drinking is that there was always a part of me that wasn't drunk. It was always there. And I couldn't drink enough ever to douse out that part of me that was aware, you know, aware of my real story. I'm unhappy, right? So these assumptions that we're a body, that's the trouble. You're a principle, universal. You're not a point. You are all points, right? This happens because you think yourself to be the body. Realize your real self. Nothing is necessary. Nothing is needed. The universe will bring what is right for your moment. The universe will be there to navigate you perfectly through it. The universe is always supporting you, always loving you, always giving you what you need. Be aware of that. See it. Right? Even at this very moment, the universe is preparing your next head of lettuce somewhere in a field. It's got people attending to it, weeding it, watering it, nurturing it, picking it, to bring it to you ultimately. The universe is nurturing you. The universe is taking care of you. Realize your real self, and even drugs will have no power over you. Questioner, you smoke? What a snarky little man he is. You smoke? Maharaj, my body kept a few habits which may as well continue till it dies. There's no harm in them, right? So Vivekananda also used to smoke or smoke his cigar. We have that famous picture of him with his cigar at Bellarmont, right? So he smokes. He's like, yeah, it's there. It's harmless. Questioner, you eat meat? Maharaj, I was born among meat-eating people, and my children are eating meat. I eat very little and make no fuss. Questioner, meat eating implies killing. Maharaj, obviously. I make no claims of consistency. You think absolute consistency is possible? Prove it by example. Don't preach what you do not practice. Right? It's always easy to point at someone else and see all of the faults, right? And to demand of them a higher level than what you demand of yourself. And this is part of the trouble in spiritual life. This is where spiritual pride comes from. We accomplish a few things, we collect them and hold them in our little ego purse. And then we look at all the people that don't have those few things in their ego purse, and we build our ego a little bit more, become a little bit more deluded, right? Because we collect attributes and then judge those who don't have them. Yes, Olga?
I have a question. The Brahmins can't even touch anything dead, let alone eat it, right? And so the claim, and also like some traditions, people consider like eating meat, it's like basically polluting your body and not possible to have an advancement, spiritual advancement with if you eat some flesh. So that's to me, it's really important and interesting point to elaborate a little bit. Could you do that for me, please?
Yes. People are very rarely happy about what I have to say in this regard, though.
I'm open. I don't
All
want to.
all of all of the avatars ate meat. Jesus, Buddha, Rama, Krishna, all of them. Rama was a hunter, for crying out loud, right?
Mhm.
So and he's an ideal at the same time. Now, Vivekananda, I like his balance. He says, yes, vegetarianism is a higher ideal, right? Because you aren't killing. Well, that's even a misnomer, but he says it's a higher ideal and he respects it. But he says it's nowhere near the importance that people give to it at all. You can only eat living things, right? Nothing, you can't live without killing.
Yeah, you kill plants. Plants also live in consciousness.
Yes, they do have consciousness and they do feel fear and they do have a fear reaction when a plant eater is nearby. So, which is also a point, but not the big point, not the main point. The point is, Mother has placed us in a world where you cannot survive as an entity without killing, period. So now it becomes, how are you going to kill, right? And I love the Native Americans for that. They taught me that. Before they would kill an animal to eat it, they would do a prayer and a little ritual of thankfulness to the animal for offering its life and their apology for needing to take it within the grand scheme of things. So they did it with awareness, with consciousness, and, you know, as it was. So I think that's the thing. The
Mhm.
body's the body. It needs food. It's made of food. It's going to be a body regardless of what kind of food you eat, right? You can fine tune it, but it's not going to be the same fine tuning for everyone. Someone who was raised eating meat, the body has become dependent on it, right? It's not that easy for them to suddenly not eat meat anymore. Someone who is raised a vegetarian, the thought of becoming a meat eater is heinous to them, right? And so you do what is best for you in the moment, and it doesn't make much more difference than that. The point is live consciously, live wisely, and go forward. Food will find its place. Let it find its place. But not one declaration is better than the other, right?
I really like your answer though, because I've struggled with this question a lot. And of course, Ramdas's teacher, his guru, he hardly ate anything. He just drank a little milk. And Ramdas, I think, talks about it. And also in Judaism and in Islam, before they kill animals, there is always a prayer. It's a procedure. It's a ceremony of killing.
Yes, yes, yeah.
It's not just like slaughter like we do here in the Western society.
Right. Well, even if we do it in the Western society, you don't have to do it as an eater. You can always have your prayer and your appreciation at whatever's in front of you, regardless of the person that killed it and how they killed it. You can change that by the way you take it. But so it's one of those things. It's the point is be aware, be present. These things will take care of themselves. By being present, you will find your proper path in those things. And it's not the same one for everyone. It's the one that works best for you, the one that makes you feel true to yourself, right? Because that's the important thing about it. Be true to yourself. And, like that. But I don't, Vivekananda was very uncomfortable with religion going to the kitchen, right? And paying too much attention, because being overly food conscious is just being body conscious. And body consciousness is what we want to transcend, So it's the same problem with Hatha Yoga, Ramakrishna said, As a practice, it's wonderful. Yes, it keeps the body nice and healthy. But he says, look at those who practice it with dedication, and you find that they're body conscious, right? It trained their consciousness to be on their body. And he said, in that sense, it's not helpful. We want our awareness on spirit. We want our awareness on isness, the I am within. And with that awareness, things will find their proper expression, right? All things must die. Just because you didn't eat the cow doesn't mean it's not going to die. So mother is killing as much as she's birthing. Every one of us was born and given death at the same time. So when one dies and how one dies is probably not as important as knowing that things die.
So the Brahmin's idea of total detachment from any dead flesh animals is just basically not helping.
Well, there's a reason it exists. So for a group of people at a certain time, mother has them in that situation. But the Brahmins also thought that it was a good solution to pour lead into a person's ears who heard the Vedas who weren't supposed to. So it's not that their judgment and their practices are infallible. So let them live the way they want to live, and we live the way that we need to live. But we do it with awareness. That's what I say. Awareness will take you to the right place as we think about all these things. So if vegetarian is helpful to you, be vegetarian. If vegetarian is not helpful to you or doesn't bother you to eat meat, then eat meat and don't be bothered.
Well,
Right?
Tibetans basically eat meat because they're the land they come from. It's basically doesn't support vegetation much. So they basically their diet was meat.
Well, yeah. Well, no, that's why initially that's what I told people. Now, when I found out that all the avatars ate meat, I didn't need another argument. I was like, that's a trump card for me. I win. But at the end of the day, that's what I said. I was like, invite an Indian who thinks you have to be vegetarian to come live in Europe for a year, right? And go find a vegetable in the middle of winter. Of course, nowadays, of course, but in the original times, the Western society is meat eaters because we lived in a place that froze for 6 months of the year. You couldn't grow a vegetable. You couldn't find a fresh vegetable, right? And so we became meat eaters. And that's just the way that is. But again, I will not speak against eating meat or vegetarianism. I just think that the more important thing is your presence, and that will take you where you need to go. Jesus even gave Peter that vision. Remember, there's a thing where Peter was obeying all of the strict, because the Jews also have very strict eating rules.
Yeah.
And he was obeying all of them. And he had a vision of Jesus where Jesus unfolded a sheet, and on the sheet were images of all of these unclean animals, all the things that they were told not to eat, the shellfish, the cloven hoof, the blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And Jesus says to Peter in the vision, he says, take and eat. And Peter says, how can I eat something that's impure? How can you tell me to do that? And Jesus says, let no one call impure that which the Lord has made pure. Right? And so there's a deeper thing behind it. Don't take these things for real. Take them in spirit, and let that take you forward in that. Right? Let that take you forward.
Thank you.
So, all right. Oh, it's time. Let me turn off the recorder.
Swamiji,